Okay, so now we're plugged into the wall. I've got my end connector you might recognize. Let's see if we have voltage on it. So I've got my voltmeter here, and I'm going to, oh, they're not keyed, they're not identified. How do I know which is which? Well, let's just try and see what happens. I'm going to stick one end in here, one end here, and if you can see, I got 122 volts. Let's try switching them. 122 volts. Interesting. Let's try measuring from the hot to ground. So how about from here to ground? Ah, I've got nothing. That means that this one is the return line. This one must be the hot one. So if I go between here and here, there's my 120 volts. Not that it matters for this case because we can't plug it in wrong because there's only one way it can go in. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to plug in now. Only way it'll go. And I don't see any indicator lights on. I might have a bad power supply, but we'll just play with it and see. Now, to take some tests, what I'm going to do now is I'm working on the direct current side, the computer side. So I'm going to take my voltmeter and switch it to DC. Now, if I don't do that, I'm going to get bad readings, and I could fry this depending on what I touch. So be careful about that, making sure you're in the right mode to get the right readings. Let me adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, doesn't sound good. Can't see that. Okay. So now here's the main cord that goes to our power supply. Prop this up a little bit better visual. Okay, right here. I've got other wires that do connect too. I've got these wires running up into here. That is my, looking on the front of it, my DVD player. I also have a wire. I got a control wire going to my hard drive over here. If you see that. Right here. But alas, I have no power. Someone did not connect the power properly. So here it is. I would connect it. L-shaped, say the power. It's not long enough, so I might have to move this hard drive over here. Whoever put this back together did it kind of wonky. Actually, this one's longer. Not the purpose of this video, but let's put it together right when you do it. Okay, we're all getting to be experts in our field here. Okay, but let's continue now. So I've got 1, 2, 3 bundles of wires coming off of the power supply in addition to the connector that goes straight to the motherboard. Okay, the motherboard, to remove this, there's a key we have to press right here that unlocks it, then we can pull it out. Now to test this now, we can disconnect the power supply, okay, and then we have to test. We can't just take our probe we can't just take our probe and hit a wire. We have to have a complete circuit again. Now, being careful not to touch the metal. So what we can do is take our probe here, and what I like to do is stick it in one of these little tabs right here. That way we don't have to keep touching it the whole time. As long as we got a good solid contact, we can start going through and testing. So now I'm going to start with my plug, and I'm going to start on one end, and I'm going to touch until I see a voltage. Okay. 0, 0, 0. So we can move this up a little bit. Yeah, 0's a little bit of voltage there. I mean, barely reading. There we go. 5.13 volts. Now remember the 3 voltages. Give you a second to say them. 3.3, 5, and 12. Okay? This wire is my purple wire. So wherever that goes, whatever that's for, that's driving 5 volts. So go through all of them and find out which ears have power. Okay? Also, I'm going to plug this back into the motherboard. Also, what I want you to do is take off one of the connectors or use a free one, if there is one, and find which one of these wires has voltage on it. Now this is a little bit trickier because we have so many little wires in here. But what we might be able to do, in some instances we actually pierce the wire. We're not going to do that in this case. So we're just going to slide down. Actually, I can't reach in there. This is not a good example of that. This is a good example. Here I can see the wires. Okay, so I'm going to touch one of these 4 wires here. It's that one there. I just can't get a good reading on it. For voltage, that would make sense with the hot wire. That should be 5 volts. Okay. Sometimes we don't want to disconnect everything to get a measurement, and that's why I was trying to show you here. Sometimes the back of the pin is open and we can, or the connector, and you can actually touch the connector on the edge here, just like we're going to do right now on this one. So if I find that purple wire again, we're just going to show you an example. If you look down the Molex plug, this is a Molex plug, you'll see there's a metal connector that crimps onto the wire that snaps into the plug. So if we touch the back of that pin, we're actually touching metal, and metal's our conductor. Okay? So this is another way of testing here. So I just found 4.2 volts on one of these wires here. So you can test this way if you have access to the back side of the wire. Okay? Being very careful now, disconnect the main power, take out the power supply by using those 4 screws on the back. Once it's out, test the wires again, and you should see something a little bit different. I'll let you do a little self-discovery on that, and if you don't pick it up, we can talk about it later. This particular computer is probably the one that you have. I've got them in bulk. There's one additional clip I'm going to show you here how to get that power supply out. So when you take off the 4 screws here, there's a clip down here you have to press, and then the power supply slides right out. Okay? That's it for this video. Feel free to text me or email me if you have any questions.